I wish I knew before I got married how much I would have to practice forgiveness. To be a husband or wife, you have to be a master of forgiveness. One thing I've learned is that as long as you are alive, you are going to be on both sides of the coin of forgiveness. At some point, you're going to need to be forgiven, or you're going to need to forgive her. Things I wish I knew before marriage. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jaquan, and on this channel here, we prepare men for marriage. Marriage is the most important decision that you will ever make in your life, so you better take it seriously. Everything from who you choose, how you prepare, all of that, it's necessary for marriage. Let's jump right into the video. One of the things I wish I knew before marriage is that I would need a marriage mentor. With the way that society is right now, you have so many people that talk against marriage. You're gonna need somebody who's gonna help you to stay married as opposed to leading you down that road of divorce. Be careful who you listen to regarding your marriage. Another thing I wish I knew before marriage was sacrifice. There is a level of sacrifice as a man that I'm required to give that a woman will not be required to give. I'll tell you this one thing here. The male ego has no place in marriage. It has to be dismantled. Reason I say that is because we have to look at marriage from a spiritual aspect. I know, yeah, we gotta get spiritual, but watch this. The Bible talks about dying to our flesh daily. That's one thing. But another thing that it talks about is how Christ died. We as husbands are responsible for loving our wives like Christ loved the church. Last time I checked, he died for the church. Do I have to die for my wife? Well, how about this? Go back to what I just said, dying daily. And that's why I mentioned the male ego. My ego cannot be the thing that I say is higher than my level of sacrifice. That's not what marriage is about. Marriage is a mirror. You instantly get a built-in accountability partner when you get married, especially if she's the woman that God chose for you. Why is that? God designed for us to be with a spouse, with a woman who will make us the best version of ourselves, but also that we would do the same in turn for them. That being said, this woman is going to challenge you in ways because she's going to hold you accountable for being that best version that you are supposed to be. But that might get on your nerves. That's why we just talked about the male ego, because you might think it's nagging, but if she's reminding you that you could do better, that you're a better man than that you're more disciplined than that, that's what we should want. Not a woman who's necessarily so subservient that she won't correct you in a respectful manner, like she should, so that her husband could be the best husband, that her husband could be the best leader, the best father. I wish I knew that in preparing for marriage, it was more than just a few sessions with my pastor. I say that because when you look at the work that is required for us to get married, there's so many things that you have to do before those sessions even start. There's so many things that we need to prepare for beforehand that oftentimes we don't do. We don't do any internal work. We show up to the pastor's office, and those few sessions we think that we do before we say I do, we think that's all we need in order to be prepared for marriage. Sorry to say, fellas, there's work that needs to be done before you ever step foot in the office of the pastor and after you leave the pastor's office. Communication. This is the glue in your marriage. You not being able to communicate effectively and properly will get in the way of how far your marriage goes. Me, naturally, and like most men, we typically keep things to ourselves. We're not vulnerable by design. The problem with that is oftentimes we either can come off very aggressive with our wives, or we can be passive. The thing about being passive because we don't want to argue means we never address things. Also, being able to handle conflict well is something that I wish I was better prepared for, because it may have saved a lot of arguments, or it may have helped me prepare for how I was going to address certain things before I did. All right, y'all. I know y'all might not want to get spiritual, but we got to. Bear with me. I got one more for you. I wish I would have known that becoming a husband would mean there's an instant target on my back. What do you mean? Well, marriage is the most attacked institution on the face of the planet. Why? It's because our enemy, Satan, knows that if we are in a marriage, we're married to the person that we are supposed to. Remember I said you get an instant accountability partner. Imagine there are two people who are one, who work together, they fulfill the purpose of God, and they're impacting lives everywhere they go. You have to know that there is a target on your back as a man, the spiritual leader of that household, so that you do not become the best version of yourself for God, for your wife, for yourself, for your community, for your job, anywhere that you step foot. Okay? So there is naturally a target on your back as a husband. Why? Because if we're not being the best that we can be, that impacts our family. That impacts our reach. We're not able to do the things that we want to do. Our family is not able to grow in places that they should be growing because we're not where we need to be. So that is why I wish I knew that there would be an instant target on my back. All right, guys, we've reached the last thing, and this is very important. It's another one of those things like communication. I wish I knew before I got married how much I would have to practice forgiveness. To be a husband or wife, you have to be a master of forgiveness. One thing I've learned is that as long as you are alive, you are going to be on both sides of the coin of forgiveness. What do I mean? At some point, you're going to need to be forgiven. You would have done something that offended your spouse, your wife. Or you're going to need to forgive her. She offended you in some type of way. She did something that was not desirable, that she should not have done. Okay? We're not talking about cheating. But at some point, you'll be on both sides of the coin. Okay? And this is one of those things that if you cannot forgive in marriage for the small things that happen, he left the toilet up. Maybe she spoke to you in a manner that you didn't like. Whatever it could be, if you are not a master of forgiveness, you will have a short marriage. Hey guys, listen, those are my list of things that I wish I knew before I got married. Stay tuned for the next video that we have that talks about why marriages fail in the first 5 years. Okay, some of these things we'll end up talking about again, but in a little bit more detail. But that video you don't want to miss. Consider subscribing to our YouTube channel for more tips on how to prepare for marriage.
Hey boss, just real quick. You are about to make the biggest decision in your life. Why not go into that decision being properly prepared? You got to get my book so you could be prepared and lead your queen correctly because you have properly prepared. God bless.